Alrighty, it is March 25th, 32525. Pretty cool there. It is episode 84 of Three Things Within, and I am delighted to be back in the studio. On today's episode, we are going to talk geopolitics and soccer, because what else do we talk about? We're going to talk about the evolution of adult board games, and no, I don't mean naughty ones, and spring activities. Spring has sprung. What does it look like for you? All right, let's dive in. First topic, geopolitics, geography, and soccer. The three things that are near and dearest to my heart. Intrepid viewers will probably know or not know that we have Uzbekistan versus Iran as part of the Asian Football Confederation's qualifying schedule. Everybody's always playing something for next year. There's so much qualifying. There's so much scheduling. Soccer is just not only global, it is perennial, it is annual, it is monthly, it is daily, it is all the time. So, Iran, for their part, are regular World Cup qualifiers. Uzbekistan, though, their record at FIFA is pretty much completely blank. They're one of a number of nations that have never qualified for really anything because they are trying to get inducted into the governing body so they can be recognized. So Uzbekistan has 3 more qualifiers, and then they might, fingers crossed, be one of the new nations to qualify for the World Cup in 2026. Uzbekistan declared independence from the Soviet Union in 91, right? That makes sense. And they've been a member of FIFA since 1994. A relatively short stint. Obviously, 94 has been a little bit of time, but compared to the Blue Bloods, your England, your Germany, your US, right? They're pretty new. So right now, Greenland, it's in the news for a lot of reasons. Population 57,000. I did not realize Greenland was so sparsely populated. Right? They're part of the kingdom of Denmark, and they're controversial right now for a lot of reasons. But they're trying to gain status into the CONCACAF, which is sort of the governing body of soccer that is the North America largely group. Right? The FIFA body governing North and Central America and the Caribbean. It would make sense for Greenland to be accepted, but nothing is ever as it seems. The CONCACAF versus the European body, they have many different rules, and they're caught up in a very opaque, strangely inconsistent, paperwork bloated, resistance to fast tracking process. So Greenland is kind of stuck right now. To complicate matters more, FIFA does not actually properly define what a country is. UEFA limits membership to territories recognized as an independent state by the majority of members of the United Nations. But go elsewhere on the planet and you have Guam, Montserrat, Bermuda, Gibraltar. There are other sides contesting World Cup qualifiers despite their lack of independence. So once again, everything FIFA touches is opaque and cloudy and doesn't make any sense. But I will say that soccer is the one sport that is played in every single place on Earth. From Little Vatican City to every island to the Sandwich Island. It's everywhere. And it means a lot. So Greenland's head coach, Morten, Rudiger, sorry about that. He said he would cry a little bit if they cleared the bar. And they interviewed Kosovo's operating manager, and he said entry into UEFA was a feeling you cannot describe. So also, this kind of dovetails with the World Cup is increasing to 48 teams now. So there's 211 FIFA members, and 48 will get into the World Cup. So the chances are getting better. The Uzbeks are this close to being first-time qualifiers. In this era of truly international football, no patch of land is too small to consider, too small to dream. I hope that Greenland can... I hope Uzbekistan can qualify, and I hope Greenland can get through the waters of the bureaucratic nightmare that it is, and also gets CONCACAF status, because I think that would be fantastic. So anyway, that's a little bit of just the geopolitical politics and FIFA and soccer, the greatest game ever to be invented. Let's talk about board games for a little bit. The modern board game renaissance is upon us. It is easy to see when you go... Board games are just a bigger deal than they used to be. When I was a kid, you had the Milton Bradley, the Parker Brothers games. You had Connect Four, Snakes and Ladders, Monopoly. There were board games, but they were nothing like the games of today. So I did some research. Post-World War II board games fell into two distinct camps: USA games and Germany. Germany is, besides the US, like they're the progenitor of board games. The games in the US, based on where we were as a nation, as a group of peoples, they were very they were meant to show the evils of capitalism. They were all about the zero-sum game, right? In Monopoly, everything you gain essentially is a loss for your opponents, right? This creates a volatile play experience that generally ends with one player having enjoyed their evening and other players having a terrible time. So head-to-head competition was the post-World War II. That was where we were at, right? So Monopoly is the biggest example of this. But late 20th century, there was a shift, the European Renaissance, right? We moved away from direct conflict. We moved away from the zero-sum experience and toward creating nuanced approaches focused on metaphor, building, and community. These are known as the Euro games. The most famous example, you probably know it, Klaus Teuber's Settlers of Catan, which you arrive on an island and you begin to settle by trading resources, building roads, settlements, and cities. This game created an experience where players are not exclusively at odds with one another. They try to do their personal best, but without direct conflict with everyone else at the table. So there is obviously conflict, there is table talk, there are trading, but if you've ever been low on sheep, you will know what I mean. And when someone refuses to trade, it is infuriating, but it is essentially a different experience than your Monopoly type of games. So in Catan, you do the best you can without explicitly hurting and harming other players' ability to do well themselves. So this Euro-style gaming, the other one is Carcassonne in 2001. It introduced basically resource management, tile laying, strategic depth, tabletop gaming. This was the birth of tabletop gaming. And interesting enough that it came from Germany. I've always seen, we have a lot of board games in our house, and a lot of them have either German-sounding names who created it or from German companies. And so this kind of makes sense. So German board games stormed across the Atlantic Ocean and changed the way that we play games. And so conflict-driven games were replaced by kind of an amalgamation where it was more cooperative, more table talk. It wasn't explicitly like good me, bad you kind of stuff. So there was a game called Spirit Island, which came out in 2017. Basically, it was a way of saying, okay, there's been countless Catan-like games. We're going to make an anti-Catan type of game. In Spirit Island, you work together cooperatively as elemental entities, protecting the natives of their islands from incoming settlers. So Spirit Island is one example among thousands and thousands of modern games that are very cooperative and collaborative, right? Ticket to Ride, 2004. Pandemic, 2008. Unfortunately, COVID has changed maybe how much pleasure you can get from that game, but these exemplify new accessible mechanics and engaging gameplay that foster camaraderie and social interaction, okay? And that's where we're at today. There's every year, I guess, 5,000 games are released. I knew it was a huge number. I've been in a lot of board game groups. I've been with a lot of individuals in my previous employment companies where we talk board games, we trade board games. It's kind of a big thing. According to this website, and there was no citation here, but over the past 20 years, the board game industry has outpaced nearly any other industry. Games are an intrinsic part of being alive in the world. Quite a statement. They always have been. They allow us to learn, to have fun, and to be imaginative. So here's where I want to talk to you guys, my captive audience. I know a lot of you are board game guys. I know you played Catan, Ticket to Ride, Pandemic, Carcassonne. What are the three best board games that you can't live without? Maybe we'll do another episode in a few weeks or few days where we kind of just go through like what board games, when someone says board games, what do I think of? What are my go-to three, my five? What are some that I've been told are good that I hate? What are some that are just ones that I keep going back to perennially? So that's the topic number 2. We're going to end with a little lighter topic. It is spring. It is, I guess it's spring. Sometimes it's very hard to see because it's cold still and very, very windy. There was a graph released in the Midwest where I'm from that said this week I'm in is over the last 60 years, the windiest week of the year. And boy, howdy, it seems like it. You can't go anywhere without being blown away. So spring for me means a lot of things. It means being able to get outside more. I love the additional daylight. That is so life affirming. I like being able to wake up and it's almost daylight, and you get daylight. Today is like 8:03 p.m. is sunset. I love that. That's fantastic. You can do soccer. You can do two things at night. Before, it was just one thing and it was dark. Here, I can go to soccer practice. I can come home and I still have that additional hour, 90 minutes or so where I can play football. I can be outside, walk the dog. Just feels good to have those options. Spring for me means going to a garden where they have butterfly exhibits. I like being around nature. I like smelling the flowers. I know it's like a cliche, but just smell the flowers. I'm going to Washington, D.C. soon. Cherry blossoms. That's beautiful. There's nothing better than just seeing the greenery around us and appreciating it. I have houseplants. That's not real. That one is real. I love green things. I love nature. I like botanicals. Just like being part of that. It makes me happy. Spring for me means long bike rides, long runs, short bike rides, just being out there. I like to play football with the neighborhood kids. We just throw the ball around. It's great. Spring is, true deep spring where you're butting up against summer, best feeling. This type of spring where we still have the winter doldrums, the worst. For me, March is the worst month because you get teased with 70-degree weather and then you get 35 degrees. So anyway, what does spring mean to you? What are your go-to spring activities besides walking the dog and getting out more? What else do you do? Do you have a trip you do? Like, do you have a ritual? What does it mean? Do you have dinner later because you have more daylight? Do you have dinner earlier? Are you going to 1,001 sports practices, right? So let me know what you think about spring. I think that deep spring is the best time of year, because deep summer, too dang hot, too dang humid. Spring is right in that middle. Like late May is just the premier time to be alive, I think. All right, I've talked long enough. We did board games. We did spring. We did geopolitics. Go Greenland. Go Uzbekistan. Be above the line. You got this, guys. Take care.